Next book of the days is Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's super soaking stream of inventions, written by Chris Barton and illustrated by Don Tate. So you see a bunch of different things he tried and has tried to invent or has. See a toy parachute, super soaker water gun, action figure with ability to shoot water, pressurized air-water rocket and launcher, hair curler apparatus. Lonnie Johnson's inventions. He's an inventor and he has patents on these things. Patent means his idea was created and no one can steal his idea. Whoosh! Every day brought a challenge for young Lonnie Johnson, the challenge of finding space for his stuff. 6 Johnson kids were squeezed into their parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama. Lonnie would have loved a workshop of his own, but there just wasn't room. There was nowhere to keep his rocket kits. Bamboo shooters, rubber band guns, elector set, go-kart engine, bolts and screws and other spare parts his dad let him bring in from the shed, and various other things he'd hauled back from the junkyard. Lonnie loved building and creating. Ideas for inventions just kept on flowing. He learned how to make rockets from scratch. Kids at school gathered to watch Lonnie launch them. And he learned how to make rocket fuel. When it caught fire in the kitchen, Lonnie's mom didn't make him stop. She just sent him to work outside. Lonnie wanted to spend his life designing things, building things, and getting them to work. He wanted to be an engineer. However, Lonnie took an exam that said he would not make a very good one. His dream had been challenged. Lonnie was discouraged. But he knew that whoever had graded his test hadn't met Lynx. Inspired by a TV show, Lonnie had built his own robot. He made it out of scrap metal and named it Lynx. Compressed air cylinders and valves allowed Lynx's body to turn and its arms to move. The switches came from an old broken jukebox. Lonnie used a tape recorder to program Lynx, and as a bonus, the reels looked like eyes. Lonnie wanted to enter his creation in a science fair, but he couldn't get the transmitter to work. Without it, Lonnie couldn't send commands to Lynx. Science fairs came and went. Lonnie missed one and then another, until he got an idea. Now, Lonnie may or may not have asked before he borrowed his little sister's walkie-talkie. But it fixed the transmission issue. His school's team took freshly finished Lynx to a 1968 science fair at the University of Alabama, where only 5 years earlier, African American students hadn't even been allowed. Having to compete in a place that still wasn't very welcoming of him and his team because they were black. Now, that was a challenge with a capital C. Against other schools from all over the state, Lonnie's team won first prize. Soon, Lonnie left home to go to college at Tuskegee Institute, where he stood out as a self-confident, insightful, creative thinker. He stood out as a student who asked the right questions, precisely defined problems, and formulated solutions. And he stood out as the guy who built his own booming sound system out of cast-off electronics. It even had lights that flashed in sync with the beat. So I hear cast-off electronics. He was able to use electronics that other people threw away to build himself a booming sound system. Lonnie sometimes studied right in the middle of his own parties. The extra studying paid off. He became an engineer after graduation, and that took him beyond Alabama, way beyond. When NASA, and those of you that don't know NASA heads all of our space products in our country, where our astronauts and scientists work together for our outer space missions and projects. When NASA was sending an orbiter and probe called Galileo to Jupiter, the space agency needed to ensure a constant supply of power to the orbiter's computer memory. The engineer who had to figure out how to do it was Lonnie. His challenge was to come up with a lightweight backup system able to keep essential functions going in case the main power was lost. It wasn't easy. It wasn't obvious, but Lonnie found a solution. And what I love about that is throughout this whole story, from the time he was young to just in this moment with NASA, he didn't always know the solution, but he wasn't afraid to seek it out, try things, and fail. He might try this idea, it didn't work. Try this idea, it didn't work. So what another great trait of being very determined and motivated. And he never gives up. So another word to describe that is he has a lot of perseverance. Some of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory doubted his idea would work. Lonnie convinced them it would. He was right. As it photographed Jupiter and its moons, Galileo was supported by the power package that Lonnie designed. Much of what we know about Jupiter could have been at risk in a power failure if not for Lonnie. Ideas for other problems to solve just kept on flowing. And right from the very beginning, since we met Lonnie, since he was young, we can tell he loves solving problems. He loves tinkering with things. He's good with his hands, but he likes to figure out those solutions himself. So I'll start that paragraph again. Ideas for other problems to solve just kept on flowing. They flowed whether Lonnie was working with hundreds of people at NASA or up late tinkering with his own inventions, and finally his own workshop. Lonnie knew the world's millions of refrigerators and air conditioners needed a new cooling system, one that didn't use R12, a chemical that was bad for the environment. He had an idea for using water and air pressure instead. To test his idea, he made a pump and a nozzle, connected them to the bathroom faucet, turned on the faucet, turned on the pump, and then whoosh! The stream that blasted across the bathroom was so powerful, it created a curtain-swirling breeze. It also gave Lonnie an idea for yet another invention. So his original idea, he tried it, it didn't work. It didn't reach the solution he wanted. But I love how much he's thinking about his creativity, because he's like, man, okay, that didn't work. Ooh, but this gives me an idea. This, he thought, would make a great water gun. First, he had to find or make the parts, including a pump small enough for a child to handle. Then, he had to glue the parts together into a prototype, an early version with room for improvement. Finally, Lonnie tested his strange-looking squirt gun at a picnic. "Does it really work?" a man asked. "Sure," Lonnie said. "Want to see?" Lonnie worked the pump, which squeezed air into a chamber. When he pulled the trigger, the air escaped, forcing water out with a Whoosh! For a water battle to be a fair fight, there couldn't be just one of Lonnie's water guns. He needed help making more. So he went to a toy company. After toy company. After toy company. And they all said, no, 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 not interested. The word no flowed again and again. But finally, one company said yes. It planned to make his water gun. Lonnie also had other projects: a water-propelled toy airplane, 2 kinds of engines, and his cooling system. He found investors to provide the money for turning his ideas into products people could buy. And if any of you watch Shark Tank, that's kind of what it's like. He had to find somebody who would help believe in his idea and help him fund it. He made a leap of faith, quit his day job, and devoted himself to full-time inventing. But soon, each plan fell apart, even the one for the water gun. These things sometimes happen, but when they happen one after another to the same person, well, that's some pretty bad luck. Lonnie didn't have a job. He didn't have the money he'd been counting on. He and his family had to move out of their home and into a little apartment. He was feeling angry and scared. Besides the angry part, boys and girls, think of Uncle Jed. You know, he spent so long working hard for his dream, and there was always a fork in the road. There was always something that stopped him from reaching that dream, and I see that connection here between Lonnie and Uncle Jed. We know how Uncle Jed responded. Let's see how Lonnie responds to these forks in the road, these bad lucks that stop him from reaching his dream. But Lonnie had dealt with challenges all his life. He knew a lot about solving problems, and he still believed in his inventions, especially the water gun. Lonnie went looking for another toy company. In 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun if Lonnie ever happened to be in Philadelphia. But don't make a special trip, the guy said. Lonnie made a special trip. In his wife's suitcase, he carried a new prototype. As you can tell, a prototype is an example of something he'd like to make and sell. He unpacked it, filled the tank with water, pumped the gun until the air pressure was good and high, and whoosh, whoosh. And you see the name of the toy company in the back. Larmani, Toys for All Seasons. Woo! Wow! Definitely looking like you found the right toy company. Kids everywhere agreed with that wow. Lonnie's water gun, called the Super Soaker. You guys aware of that? I know Kate and Amelia are. What about the rest of my 3rd graders? Played with these before? Well, his Super Soaker became a smash hit. In no time, there were Super Soakers in backyards, and on beaches, and parks, and on playgrounds. Each sale of a Super Soaker put a little money into Lonnie's pocket. All those hours, all those years that Lonnie spent in his workshop had paid off big time. Now he could afford to do just about anything he wanted. So what did Lonnie do? He got a bigger workshop, which is where you'll find him today. Because facing challenges, solving problems, and building things are what Lonnie Johnson loves to do. And his ideas just keep on flowing. So let's compare him to Uncle Jed. They both achieved and reached their dreams and their goals by failing, right? But they kept going, even when they had the big bad luck and bad setbacks. things that stopped them. They never stopped moving forward. They never stopped believing. And you can actually learn more about Lonnie. This is a true story. This is Lonnie's true story, and here's some of his other inventions. And it might even be on Epic if you would like to reread it and see it again yourself. All right, thanks. Happy Easter.